Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Today I'm going to dive into a topic that is not just about homeschoolers. It's about any kid, no matter where they go to school. And you know, it's a really contentious subject because there are so many different opinions on it, and there are so many research papers that have been developed about this. But what I'm going to share with you today is just what I have learned along the way in my experience with this. So today's topic is, should kids have tech time limits? You know, as I mentioned earlier, this really is one of those topics that can affect any child at all. So I'm going to start out talking about, generally speaking, any kid. And then towards the end of my video, I am going to talk a little bit about how this can affect your homeschool. So, tech time limits, yay or nay? You know, depending on what family you talk to, you're going to definitely hear different examples. And the fact is that there really are kids out there who are really good at self-regulating when it comes to technology. And so when we were unschooling years ago, this was a mentality that I had read a lot about, and I read that it was something that can be developed in kids once they are given the freedom to be on their technology whenever they want. So this is something that we did try to do in our family, and not for just a short period of time. We tried this for quite a while of having no tech limits in our home, which I've got to say, hurt me dearly. Not hurt me, I shouldn't say that. It was very hard for me because I don't really like technology all that much. And having a gamer husband is probably what saved them I mean, they don't have gamer husbands. I have a gamer husband. Their dad is a gamer. But anyway, you know what I meant. That is what saved them for being able to go on games. Because if it were up to me, none of my kids would have phones. There would be no iPads in the house, no tablets, nada. But anyway, so I did. When we were unschooling, I did try to have my kids learn to self-regulate. And what I learned in that time is that it doesn't happen to everyone. And actually from the number of people that I have spoken to about this topic, there seems to be more children who cannot self-regulate than those who can. So that is something that you might agree with, you might disagree with, but that is something that I have come up with in my own experience of just talking to people. So anyway, tech time. You know, there are some families still who don't let their kids do any sort of technology at all. And I really think that in the 21st century, that can be a mistake because your kids are going to be left back because this is where our society is going. Like it or not, technology is going to be a driving force behind many of the careers and much of the workforce that's out there, and it's really, unfortunately, a way that a lot of people communicate. So I think that it's crucial that your kids do have that tech time experience, depending on their age, and the age that you started, and you know, all of those sorts of things are up to each individual family. So I'm not really going to tell you what to do when it comes to that, because that's something that you have to discuss with your spouse, with your kids, and just come to a decision with that. But you know what? I've done a lot of reading on technology, and when I say technology, I'm speaking today of like phones and iPads and tablets and computers, and I'm not talking just about gaming. Yes, gaming is definitely included today, but I am also talking about social media. I'm talking about Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and all of those things that your kids might be spending a lot of time on. And here's the deal. What I have found out is one of the former executives of Facebook actually came out and said that the way that they develop these social media apps, they actually do it specifically so that it affects the dopamine levels in your brain. It's called the dopamine loop. And what it does is that you kind of get like a high from going back to seeing who likes your post, who commented. And it's like you just keep going back and checking over and over and over and over again. And yes, this is done on purpose because they want people using their apps all the time. And it's a little bit scary. But it's not just apps that are doing that. It's games as well. There are entire websites dedicated to helping people who have gaming addictions. And you know, World of Warcraft, it can be like the one that's at the top of gaming addictions, but it is certainly not the only one. And it too has that same effect that social media apps do. It's almost like fear of missing out. You don't want to miss anything, so you keep going back. You stay there no matter what. And I was just actually having a discussion with someone at church the other day, and we were talking about the fact that games used to have pause buttons. You used to be able to, like, say if you had to go to the bathroom, or if a kid had to do their chores, or if they had to do their homework, they could pause a game. I don't see that happening in any games that I know of anymore. There is no pause button. It's almost as if these games are developed in a way that someone's life, whoever's playing them, has to be central to them, because they literally cannot just pause whenever they need to. A lot of times they'll say, oh, I have to find a hiding spot, or I have to get up to this level before I can do anything. And you know what? That's not the way that life should be. Children's lives especially, but adults too. No one's life should be completely circulated around a game. You know, it shouldn't matter if you have to go to the bathroom, or it shouldn't matter if you really want to level up. There has to be some sort of out on these games. You know, some sort of way for people to just break away from them and do the things that life requires. It's not there. And it is not there for a reason. It is not there because, yes, they want these addictions to happen because it makes more money for them. So, you know, when you go back to kids, generally speaking, what do kids do? Every time you look, you see a kid with their face down in their phone all the time. And it's almost like there is no social interaction anymore. A lot of kids don't know how to react. I remember even with us, you know, I'm certainly not perfect at this because I told you, we went through a time where my kids didn't have any limits on their tech time. My daughter had a friend sleep over. Her friend brought her laptop. They sat at my dining room table on their laptops, chatting with each other on their laptops instead of just talking to each other. And you know, you might laugh, but that's what kids do. Even with texting, they'll text someone who's sitting right across from them. And there's just that's not good for a community. That's not good for our society. We have to know how to interact with people one-on-one. So should kids have tech time limits? Yes, because they need to be able to experience the real world. One thing that I always tell my kids is, what do you get out of they watch a lot of YouTube. I have to point that out first. They watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of channels like with families, and they watch like parents playing games with their kids and all those sorts of things. But, you know, a lot of times I will say to my kids, will you please, you need to take a break from YouTube and you need to start living life. You keep watching people live life. Why don't you go out there and do it yourself instead of just watching people do it? And that is what is happening. These games and these YouTube videos and these social media apps have just gotten to the point where kids are sedentary and they are watching life pass them by. They are watching other people live life. And very often they're watching other people live lives that very likely doesn't even reflect the truth of what that person's life is. It causes anxiety. It causes depression. It causes headaches. It causes, what else was I seeing? I read this. It causes people to forget. It causes forgetfulness. There are so many other issues that come up with just being on this technology all the time. And so very, very often, and again, this goes with kids in school, and it also goes with homeschool kids or homeschool parents. People will come to me and they will say to me, every time that I try to get my kids to do their chores or try to get my kids to do their work, they won't get off of their phone. And that's when you as the parent, honestly, it is time to step in and give your kids limits if that is an issue with you. If your kids are not doing their chores, if they are not interacting with family, getting out there, living life, doing things on their own, if they are not doing their work, if they are having any sort of issue breaking away from that technology, that is a clear sign that you need to assign some limits to your kids. Now, what sort of limits that is really, again, is up to you. What we have started doing in our house, and we have done this for a couple years now, is my younger kids up through my preteens and younger, they only have weekend tech time. They are only allowed on their technology on Fridays, after we're done with school, Saturdays, and Sundays. That is it. Now, occasionally I might let them do it during the week. Sometimes, like if it's someone's birthday or if it's a special occasion, I might let them do it during the week. But yes, they have limits. Even with TV. Now, our tech time limits are only for like their phones and tablets and, you know, those little screens. But even TV, I have a limit for no TV until at least 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they can't sit and watch it all day long. Because again, it all goes back to you want your kids to have real life experiences and not just watch other people have those experiences, or not just play them on a game, which yes, I've got to say that gaming does have its advantages. Kids can learn math skills, they can learn mapping skills. My 5-year-old, she knows how to spell a lot of things now because of her playing the games on the weekend. So I'm not saying that they're a total loss. And in fact, I actually wrote a post a while ago about why screen time is not a waste of time. But you have got to learn moderation. All things in moderation. And that is something that is so, so important for any parent to remember. Kids need to live a real life. You have got to limit that screen time for them. Now, moving on to how this affects homeschool. Very often, homeschoolers will relish the fact that their kids have more time to live life than children who are in school, because children who are in school all day are gone most of the day. You know, and then they come home and they have homework and after school activities. And one of the best advantages of homeschooling is allowing your kids to have that time to just be themselves, to explore, to follow their own interests. But that can really start to cause problems if you are not setting some sort of limit on technology with your kids, if they themselves are not able to self-regulate. Again, if self-regulation is something that your kids are great at, then you probably don't even need to be watching this video. But most kids, like I mentioned earlier, they're not going to self-regulate. They just don't do it. It has been programmed in such a way that it is addictive. It is designed to be addictive, and it is. So if you have homeschooled children who have all of this extra time throughout the day, if you don't have limits, what are they going to be doing? Very, very likely they're going to be sitting on their phones or sitting playing their games or sitting on their tablets for all the rest of the hours that they are not doing their structured schoolwork. You know, so that is even, it can turn into being more time than a child who is in school. Your child can end up doing more time on those sorts of things if you do not nip it in the bud. It is so important that you do that. And so often I have people tell me, how do your kids get you? How do you get your kids to do interest-led learning? How do you get your kids to follow their own interests or to do other things? Because all my kids want to do is sit on their phones all day. And again, that is a clear sign. If that's all your kids want to do, don't let them do it. That is something that you as a parent, you can do that, and you absolutely should, because it is for your child's best interest. Set tech time limits. Allow your kids to live life. Allow them to have their own experiences. They might not be happy with you at first, but I guarantee that after a while, when they actually see what the real world out there has to offer, they're going to thank you for it. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one down below. And if you like my work, I will leave my Patreon link in the description box, and you can check out my page there. And I hope you have a great day.